Hello everybody, thank you very much for having me at the Rise for Disability Expo. I am George Baker and I am the founder of Disability Union. Now today we're going to talk about the 3 steps to full inclusion now. How you can win disability battles and influence people in power. And first of all, a little bit about me. So my name's George, I'm 30 years old, I have muscular dystrophy, I have a 24/7 care package of carers who look after me. Um, I live near Southampton. I love history, politics, and video games. Now, I could go on forever, I just thought I'd give you a little flavour of who I am. So, what I thought the best way to introduce myself would be is to kind of show you some ridiculous pictures of myself now and in the past. Everybody loves a baby picture, don't they? So the top left is a photo of me taken from a video that was recorded to help me recruit some new carers. As you can see, I have rugged, handsome good looks, and a lovely posh little wheelchair there. On the right is a photo of me as a kid, sticking my tongue out, some strange facial expression. And to the bottom is a family picture of me when I was about, I think, 6 or 7 years old, probably. Now, here is a more recent photo. Most of these photos were taken, or rather, the photos on the left were taken at a recent holiday I had with some friends. It was really, really good fun. We went and stayed in a cottage. When was it, Ryan? My carer's here with me. Say carer, he's my best mate as well. When was it?
Oh, when? Sorry.
Where?
Where? With Somerset.
Somerset, a lovely little cottage in Somerset. Not really a cottage, like a holiday home thing. In Somerset, had a hot tub, as you can see on the bottom left. That is me, absolutely drunk out of my mind in the hot tub. And on the right is a very funny picture I found of me when I was about 12 years old. I think I was about to get in the swimming pool and I thought it was really hard with a little transferable tattoo. Now, things haven't always been this good. I'm very lucky in that I live an independent life. I have support from carers, great family and friends that really mean that my disability isn't so much of a barrier to my life as it could be. So I'm really blessed in that sense. But things haven't always been like that. Really, in my early 20s and through till sort of about the age of 28, I had kind of what I would describe as 10 years in the wilderness. I became very, very ill when I was 19. As you can see at the top left, that's me with my little ventilator on in the hospital, half dying of pneumonia. And really after that experience, I ended up with quite severe anxiety and depression because all the pressures of trying to learn to live independently with a disability after recovering from such a horrific illness really just got to me. And it was a very, very long time before I really felt like myself. So the photo on the bottom left was taken, I think, a year or two after I was in hospital. That's me with one of my best mates and my older brother Steve. And although I might look happy, I was actually incredibly anxious and miserable. I barely knew where I was. And the photo on the right is a photo of me after I'd first moved into my own house with my little puppy, Lynch. He's now 5 years old. He's a middle-aged dog now. There he was like 12 weeks old or something. And as you can see, I'm trying to have fun, but actually on the inside, I'm just incredibly miserable and stressed because I was constantly afraid that things were going to go wrong with my care package, that I wouldn't be able to manage with money, and that my health would fail. Now, here we are in the present day, and I'm very, very lucky in that my life is kind of completely different now, for all sorts of reasons that I'll talk about in a bit, but I was lucky enough to stand to be the MP for Winchester on behalf of the Labour Party, and you can see in the top left, that's me, that was in the 2019 election. The bottom left is a photo of me this time in like November, Ryan, was it? When I was
November. Yeah.
November, something like that.
October. But...
That is a clip of me being interviewed by Fred Dinage for ITV News about the Disability Union. And on the right is a photo of me at some speech I was giving, possibly in connection with the election or something else. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
That's an election hustings.
It's an election
I
hustings.
can tell that by your rosette.
Ah, yes, it's an election hustings. That's me at an election hustings. And I never would have been able to do any of these things if I hadn't found a way, or rather been lucky enough to have been shown the way, to get the kind of support that I needed, to get my disability struggles contained, isolated, and kind of dealt with. And what I'm going to talk about today are the 3 steps that I kind of discovered that meant that I was able to go from being constantly stressed and anxious and ill and kind of just going backwards and forwards. I ended up in all sorts of debt and ended up with terrible, almost abusive carers and all sorts of stuff because I just wasn't able to deal with the constant battling that comes with being disabled and needing support. And these are the kind of the 3 things that I learnt that enabled me to get out of that. Now, I will say that obviously any kind of 3 steps thing is a bit of a, it's just a lens, a way of looking through things. It's not by any means a definitive kind of list of things that people need. It's not the only way of looking at it, but these 3 steps are the way that I have chosen to think about it and that kind of include all the most important things. Now, I can't talk about these 3 steps without talking about the Disability Union, because the union is what came out of those 3 things that I learnt, and I started it because I wanted other people to have access to those things that I learned. I wanted other people to be able to stand together and help each other and kind of improve the world, or at least the UK, for disabled people. Now, I'm going to be honest, I want to change the playing field for disabled people. I want to end up in a situation where we have real full inclusion, and I can't do that, or rather we can't do that if we don't all band together. And that's what the Disability Union is all about. So I'm not going to apologise for what I will call shameless self-promotion. Right? I'm shamelessly going to promote the idea of the union to you because I believe it's the best vehicle to make sure that we can finally stop having to fight all these battles on our own. We can finally stop being ignored and mistreated, abused. We can finally make it so that the people that come after us, and hopefully some of us, don't have to experience the pain and frustration, the isolation, the feeling of being othered that many disabled people have to face. So, I'm going to talk a lot about the Disability Union. You can join today for as little as £5 a month. There's all the details. I'll talk more about it in a minute. These are 3 wonderful people that have chosen to join me on the mission to grow the Disability Union. The first person to join, at the top left, was a lady called Lauren Trotman. She worked as my carer for 5 years and was so inspired by the idea of the union that she now basically helps me run the whole thing. She is disabled herself, and she looks after her partner, who is disabled as well. On the right is the very prolific disability campaigner and advocate Dan White. He is disabled himself, and that lovely young lady with him there is his daughter, who him and his wife care for 24/7. Here's our comms guy. He kind of helps make sure that we're getting the word out about what we're doing, who we are. The lady on the bottom left is Fee Anderson. She joined as a caseworker, helping our members by advocating to get them the support and the help that they need as a disabled person. She now kind of almost runs the casework team with Lauren. She's incredible. She's done an awful lot for us. So, how did we get to where we are? We only started really in November, and we already have hundreds of members the union is growing an astonishing amount every month, and I can't believe where we are. But what job is here? And the truth is, it was three things. It was those three steps to full inclusion now. The first one, and I think possibly the most important, is community. You cannot, in any situation, any difficult situation in life, in any context, get where you want to go unless you have a community of people around you who understand your situation, can reflect your feelings back to you, and can help you find shared solutions to move forward. I'm talking about friends, I'm talking about people with real expertise who've been where you are. Oh, there you go. Forgot about this slide. So community is really about three things. It's about having understanding. It's about having a group of people around you who understand what you're going through and can help you see that, it's all going to be okay. Even if it's not okay now, you can manage and you can get where you need to go. Secondly, you need a community that can help you with mutual aid. People helping each other. And ultimately, actually, that's what the Disability Union is all about. At the moment, most of the help that we provide is through our caseworkers, our employees, people who go out and advocate for our members and, take some of the strain off them when it comes to fighting all the disability battles, whether it's with social services, whether it's with DWP, whether it's with some company that doesn't understand you, and all sorts of different things, right? It's about taking some of that burden off you. But the truth is, actually, we can never, our caseworkers should never provide enough help to completely solve those problems for people. What will solve the problems, and what we're working on now, is the concept of mutual aid, where our members help each other, where they all get to know each other, share their experience, and help really share the burden and alleviate each other's pains. Actually, it was an experience of mutual aid which was the biggest reason that I decided to start the union. I'm part of a Facebook group called Living with Muscular Dystrophy. There's about 2,000 people with muscular dystrophy all across the world, and when you join this group, if you have a problem related to muscular dystrophy, or really most any kind of disability issue, if you post it, you get an answer, but within 5 minutes, probably from several different people who have been through exactly what you've been through and who know the solution. And not only do they know the solution, they understand what it's like to be in that situation. They can help you navigate the emotions and the struggles and help you get to the practical solution you need to resolve the problem. And it's incredible that kind of hive mind can alleviate the stresses of life so quickly. And not only that, but the more you interact with these people like you who understand what you're going through and who've been there themselves and hopefully got through the other side, is you start to become friends with these people. You start to build a real network where you feel supported and understood. You start to do other things together. You start to have shared in-jokes. You start to feel like part of something more than yourself. And it was that experience that made me realise that if disabled people just banded together, just had a group like that where we all supported each other, we could solve so many of the problems we face. Disabled people account for about 20% of the UK population, and yet we're one of the most marginalised groups in the country. And it's because we're not connected together. So if the union can just do one thing, and that is to bring disabled people together, then I'm certain that we can massively improve things, massively improve our living conditions, massively improve the treatment that society gives us. And that is really the power of community. And the next thing is opportunity. Now, disabled people, unfortunately, by virtue of the fact that we live in a world that isn't set up for us, are denied many of the opportunities that other people take for granted. And the only way to bring disabled people, make disabled people more integrated into society is to find ways to give us those opportunities before society gives them to us. We have to find ways to take the opportunity, to make our own opportunity, so that society sees the benefits of including us. And that's the other mission of the Disability Union, and the other step to really winning full inclusion now. And that is to find ways to make our own opportunities. And really, that means these four things. It means finding ways to enable us to learn new skills. You know, I'm very lucky in that when I was a teenager, one of my older brothers took me aside one day when I went to his house and he said, "Oh, George, come into my office for a minute." I went into his office and there were papers everywhere, all these boxes. And I was like, "Henry, what the hell are all these boxes?" And he said, "Oh, these are marketing courses that I've sold to businesses. And I'm selling them, and these are the orders that I have to send out." I was like, "What? There's like hundreds of them." And he was like, "Yeah, I sell hundreds every day. I make all these websites to advertise them, and then they get sold, and then I get money, and then I ship them out." And he said, "I'm basically a glorified postman." And he said, "I want to teach you how to do these things, because it's going to be really hard for you to get a, quote, normal job. You need to learn to make your own money, your own opportunity." And so he taught me all about marketing and sales. And that experience has meant that not only have I been able to make an income for myself in my own career, but it means that now, when I've decided that I've had enough of selling other people's rubbish, I can use those skills to do something really useful, which is to bring disabled people together. And really, without him, I wouldn't be here. The Disability Union wouldn't be here. And so what I want us to do as a disability community is to be able to bring people together, people with all sorts of different skills, and have them share them with the community, share them with each other, so we can all learn from each other and make our own opportunity in the world. Show people that including disabled people improves society for everyone. Now, whilst that is a lovely concept, it will not work unless we also give disabled people opportunity by taking some of the disability struggles off them, by having a way for them to receive advocacy from those with lived experience of the same problems they are going through. And that's kind of what our caseworkers do, but more importantly, it's what I want the union's members to do with each other. That's where the real power comes in. Remember that Facebook group for people with muscular dystrophy? It's all about learning from people who have a lived experience of the same situation you have. It's about giving people opportunity by showing them the solutions quickly, by taking some of that pressure off them, by reminding them of what's important and that everything's going to be okay. And our third thing is, well, the third and fourth are really about giving people the basics of life. Disabled people are denied, I know I was denied, despite the fact that I'm a very privileged white middle class man. I was denied as a teenager, particularly, many of the social opportunities that other people take for granted. And that meant that it was hard for me to grow up. And, you know, it largely contributed to a lot of the mental and physical health struggles that I had as a young adult. And so what I want the union to do, and what I want the disability community at large to do, is find ways to give those social opportunities to disabled people. I don't know if any of you have watched the Netflix documentary Trip Camp, but you should. It's a perfect example of what happens when disabled people are empowered to give each other the same social opportunities that everybody else takes for granted. I don't want to say any more about it, so I don't want to spoil it, but please, if you don't quite get what I'm saying, watch that documentary and you'll understand. Finally, really as an extension of all that, is culture, entertainment and sport. Disabled people are also denied all these things, or to a large extent anyway, because, you know, maybe music venues or nightclubs aren't accessible. You know, we can't often participate in, quote, normal sport activities. I want the union and disability community at large to be able to offer people those opportunities. And we're really going to start pushing over the next year to give those opportunities to people. I must apologise for my dog. It is rather loud, so we're just trying to make sure that it doesn't start barking a lot. But yeah, that culture and entertainment, that just being part of the normal fun experiences of life is really important. And so one of the things that I want you to take away from this is that whoever you are, wherever you are, try and find ways to work together as disabled people, and also carers. It's really important that carers are a part of this. Work together to find ways to bring more of those opportunities to disabled people. Because it's only through those opportunities that we can get the third part of the three-step formula, and that is unity. We will only succeed in improving the lot of disabled people if we work together. People in power only listen to two things. They listen to money and they listen to numbers. If we want to improve the social care situation, to improve inclusion in schools and culture and just buildings, full stop, right? Then we have to work together. We have to show that there are enough people in favour of this and desirous of this that those in power have no choice but to act. And really, to break that down to you, as I said, people in power only listen to two things. They listen to money and numbers. We don't really have the money, so we have to focus on numbers. And that means doing all these other things. We have to organise together. I mean, one of the most incredible examples of this is the most recent Change in Places campaign that resulted in legislation that means that all new public buildings have to have change in places in them. And whilst, you know, it's a watered down bit of legislation in some ways, it's still enormous progress. And that only happened because passionate people came together and organised to do all this lobbying, all the PR, the campaigns and protests, the education, talking to people, to show why it was necessary that this happened, that we adopt those change in places so that the world was more accessible to people with complex needs. And again, whether you join the union or not, right, one of the things I want you to take away from this is that please organise people around the issues that are important to you. Find other people like you and work together to make sure that you're heard on those issues. And fight and fight and fight until you get the changes you need. It's really, really important. And what I want the union to do in terms of unity is be a vehicle to make it easier for people to do that. And so I'm going to do a shameless pitch for you, right? At this point, shameless pitch. As I said, people in power only listen to two things: money and numbers. If we want to change the world for disabled people, we have to come together. Because together, we're stronger. Now, the union is run by and for disabled people. We try to make it as affordable as possible for people. We're working to find a way so that those with very, very little income can join without having to pay. But at the moment, it's very difficult to run an organisation without taking funding from people who might silence you. So we have to charge. And the union is organised along the lines of the trade union movement. So it will be run by and for our members. We are run by and for our members. Our first local group is launching over the summer in Southampton, and we're working to make sure that within the next few years we can have branches throughout the country so that people can come together and organise around the local and national issues that are important to them, so they can build a community of disabled people in their area, so that they can work together to create that opportunity that means that we'll be able to win the battles that we need to win. In the meantime, it's also true that our caseworkers can take a lot of the stresses of being disabled off you. We have some incredible stories of things that we've been able to achieve for people, and I'm reticent of mentioning specific examples because we deal with really complex situations and people who are in situations where their privacy is extremely important. But I will just talk in general terms. One of the most amazing things that we've managed to achieve is we've worked basically since we started the union with a lady whose son had been unfortunately taken away from her by social services for some very spurious reasons relating to her son's disability and her disability. As of a week ago, we got confirmation that her son is being given back to her, and she credits us with getting her through the situation and helping to advocate to make that happen. I don't want to take credit for it, to be honest, because as hard as we've worked, this lady is, like many of our members, incredible. And, you know, I imagine that she could have done it on her own, but it's just wonderful that we've been able to be involved in something like that. We also managed to help somebody who had a social care package that was completely inadequate for their needs. They needed 24/7 care, and they were getting, I don't know, like 10 hours a week or something ridiculous. And we sent a supporting letter to their local social services department saying why this was completely unacceptable. And we received a letter back that said that, oh, this person already has a 24/7 care package and it just hasn't been implemented. And actually, we have all the documentation, and they're just lying. They're lying because they got caught out. So this lady will now have a 24/7 care package, which is incredible. So please, even if you don't need help yourself, help us help more people by joining the union. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. I'm going to be available for Q&As as of now. It's been really wonderful to speak to you, and just thank you very much for your time.